Welcome to Ministry Matters, a podcast of Freedom Baptist Church in Rural Hall, North Carolina. Join Pastor John White as he teaches, encourages, and equips believers through the timeless truths of Scripture. Now, here's Pastor White with today's topic.
Hello, welcome to another podcast of Ministry Matters, and we are speaking about loneliness in ministry, and this is a continuation of previous podcasts in the series Overbooked and Overcooked, and this is more geared to ministry leaders. And there's a uniqueness about loneliness in ministry. Pastoral loneliness, ministry loneliness is real. It's common and it's often misunderstood. We're with people. You're with people if you're a ministry leader a lot of times, but constantly with people, but often known by few.
You're very guarded. And so it's not a relaxed often time.
Right.
Although you love the people, you love being with them, but you're also always trying to be careful that you're ministering to them.
Right. You always got a mind to minister to them. And, again, you're around a lot of people, but meaningful relationships sometimes are few and far between. And then there's burdens that we're carrying, that you're carrying, that you can't share with anybody. There are things that I'm not able to share with my wife even because of confidentiality, and but there are just things, there are burdens that we carry for other people that we can't share, and those get heavy oftentimes because you have no way of releasing that. Obviously, we go to God and we give it to Him. But humanly speaking, there's not an outlet to do that.
Yeah. And also it becomes a roller coaster. It can be, because we can be so excited finding out, someone who's been praying for a child, they're now expecting. And we're so excited. Next phone call, there's been a death.
Yeah.
And then another phone call of, a wayward child. And then the next one could be something exciting again, of someone's getting engaged. And so it's a constant roller coaster of emotions,
yeah.
Especially during the holidays.
During the holidays, it intensifies. And then, as this is common, not just during the holidays, but this happens and many young pastors may not, you don't know this till you experience it. But just being the pastor, being in a place of authority, will often, create distance, not necessarily by you, but others who will see you in a place of authority. The invitations may get fewer because who wants to go eat with the principal,
Yeah, it is. That's how I always look at it. It's kind of like you're inviting the teacher to your friends get together. It's You don't know what she's gonna think about you, or is she gonna hold something against you. So it gets awkward. I guess they don't really know sometimes.
Yeah.
They don't
know
if they're gonna be embarrassed, or
right.
if we will be. So
right.
Yeah.
So authority sometimes does create distance normally, and that happens in any kind of leadership position, whether it's a secular job or the pastorate. It happens. And then familiarity sometimes breeds contempt, and it erodes what would otherwise be safe relationships, which creates further isolation and could lead to loneliness. And then you help people, you shepherd people while often neglecting things that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And maybe you're hurting over.
So you may be, on the phone talking to someone, counseling with someone, but you know of a burden that you have in your heart for maybe one of our children or another family member, or maybe a health problem that you're not able to share or tell anyone. So while you're trying to help someone else, here yourself, you have this very heavy thing that you can't share. And so often the pastor's wife, it feels very lonely, and it feels like you're in a spot that you can't tell anybody anything,
Yeah.
and so you hurt while you're trying to help
Right.
someone else.
Right. And you add all those things up that we just mentioned, and they do get heavy. Moses bore the burdens that others could not carry in Exodus chapter 18. Elijah felt alone after a great victory at Mount Carmel in 1 Kings chapter 19. And then Paul spoke of fightings without and within fears, 2 Corinthians chapter 7. And Jesus had crowds of people at times, the disciples, but he still said, "Could you not watch with me?" Remember at Gethsemane, for an hour, could you not watch with me? And so there are times in ministry that we are surrounded, but yet very lonely. And loneliness is not a sign of weakness. It is it accompanies leadership. It's a cost of leadership is loneliness, but you must keep an eye on it and learn how to recognize seasons and what to do when those come. And the holidays, I think, intensifies normal seasons of loneliness. And you throw the holidays on there, and everybody else is celebrating during the holidays, and you gotta carry on. You still gotta preach, even though it's Christmas Eve, and you still gotta do this, and you still gotta do ministry.
So we're taking during the holidays, we're planning the different church things that are coming up, and sometimes that becomes an extra things in on your calendar.
Yeah, and then you know everybody else is able to celebrate, and you need to be there to continue to shepherd, continue to pastor, continue to preach, which you should do. But sometimes that creates a loneliness and an isolated feeling that, hey, they're able to get off from work and do this, and we're still in the harness here. You got to be careful, not getting bitter about that, and obviously not being isolated.
Right, and realizing that is part of what God has called you to. And those are some of the hard things. There'll be maybe other times, January, that you will have a break from, the pressures. But you have to realize, as a ministry leader, that is intense. And when we go into the holidays, we know that. I keep a list of things that I prepare myself for mentally and emotionally. There will be more deaths. Always. There will be more counseling. There will be more activities at the church. And so going into it, you already know that these are things you're going to be dealing with. And that does help, knowing that this is a season and it will pass. But you have to guard yourself. Don't get caught up in that, feeling sorry for yourself, because there'll be a time that it'll pass.
Amen. Yeah, and it's a wonderful season. It's a wonderful thing. You just need to be prepared ahead of time. And I'm so thankful. My wife takes notes from year to year, and with pointers for the next year, and so it helps. But you can count on it. Things are going to intensify. Expectations of the season and the different services are high. The margins for error are low.
Right.
And the margins for life are low. In other words, there's not a lot of margin to do extra things during the holiday season, and so you got to be careful and keep your focus on Christ. Draw strength from Him. Comparisons increase. You got to be careful scrolling through social media.
We'll do a play, and I'll see everybody else's, and I'll think, well, we should have did that one, or I'm gonna maybe keep that in mind for the next year. All of a sudden, you forget about how great the one was that you did, and how much of a blessing it was, because you're looking at someone else's great idea that you're like, why didn't I think of that?
Right. Don't let someone else's don't allow comparison to kill the joy and the excitement, and that God gave you with the event that He allowed your church to do or allowed you to do. It's very easy to scroll through there and see things that, like she said, we should have done this, we should have done that. So be careful about comparing what this church was able to do during the holidays, what we were able to do. Pray, ask God, seek the Lord, what events that
Yeah.
your ministry,
And the people that you have that you're working with.
Yeah.
It's all different for every church in different areas of even the world. Different things that they have a great outdoor nativity um thing that we saw in Florida.
Yeah.
That was great. They're outside. Here it was 20 degrees. I don't want to be outside and doing nativity.
Yeah. They did a nativity at 70 degrees,
Yeah.
You do one here, it's 13. So
Yeah.
it's
I want to do my indoor one.
yeah. Yeah. You gotta adjust and be careful about letting comparison or other places dictate the speed that God has set you at. The race that you're called to run is not someone else's. So be very careful about that. And then the sheer emotional labor of the holiday season multiplies. Just as she said, counseling increases, deaths increase. Well, that takes an emotional toll on the pastor's wife, ministry leaders, because as emotional labor and multiplies, you give and give and give at an unprecedented speed, and you got to be very careful not to work yourself back yourself in a corner and be isolated and really lonely, even though you're busy. Another thing that amplifies during this time is family time, competing with ministry demands, trying to take care of minister to your own family, but yet at one of the most busy times of the year.
It is. We still want to do things, with our kids and separate from the church. And you may have extra funerals, and or extra church uh, dinners or things. And so we have to be creative, and we carve out our time and plan ahead. That's so important. Plan ahead as much as you can. You can't always plan for um
Unforeseen things you can't
things.
plan for, but you can be strategic and planning ahead gives you the ability to be flexible. Really, when those things do come up,
Yeah.
but the failure to plan is planning to fail for sure.
Because you will find that if you don't have that time set apart, something will come up. There is something we could do every single day.
Yeah, someone
That
else,
would be
something
good.
else will
Yeah.
take that time away if you don't guard it. And so there's some things you've got to be watchful for as these things intensify. We just mentioned the competition with ministry demands, family time, emotional labor multiplies. So here's some things you need to look for, danger signs, if you will. And that is emotional numbness. That's just retreating and having no feeling whatsoever during what should be the most joyful time of the year. If you find yourself emotionally numb because you're just emotionally drained, you need to ask God for strength and help. You need to take some time to recalibrate, refocus on Christ, and as loneliness increases, our you know view of Christ will decrease. As our view of Him increases, loneliness should decrease. And so be sure that we're focused on Christ. And what are some other danger signs?
I think as a pastor's wife, a danger sign is becoming bitter about the expectations at Christmas of people taking your time instead of looking at it as this is an opportunity that God has placed you in this position to care for people. And although you don't take the place of God, God is the one who ultimately helps them, but you can sometimes give them the focus they need or the guidance that they need to turn towards God. And instead of me thinking about that, I'm thinking, oh, they're taking my husband's time away from me and my family. And so, ladies, if you're starting to feel bitter, give that to God and ask Him to help you to renew your mind about it. And and you start believing these lies, and ask God to help you see the truth about what's going on. So that would
That's
be
very
something to
good.
watch
Yeah,
for.
that's very good. And God does, you do have to ask the Lord to help you in these seasons. They can get overwhelming. If you're not careful with all the business, you're more irritable
Hmm.
because you give, and then when you come home, you're like a ticking time bomb, and you've got to be very, very careful about that, and understand that God placed you in this time and this place, as she said, um, not to be bitter, but to enjoy and to serve others, to serve Christ, and God will help you with that. So emotional numbness, just being, you know, quite irritable at home,
Hmm.
withdrawing from people. Be careful about that. And some of that is normal. After a long day and you want to just retreat for a few moments, that's okay. But a constant withdrawal from people, I mean,
Yeah.
let's get it right. This is not the pastor who said, the ministry be great for what, for the people. I
Yeah.
mean, the ministry is people. Let's
It
remember it.
is.
And so withdrawing from people is not an option long term. Short term, yes. But if you have a desire to do that, I would be careful, because that's a warning sign and a danger signal. Um, as she said, bitterness, resentment towards, just towards, you got to be careful not to get resentful towards people in a busy time, and they don't understand your schedule, and they don't
Hmm.
understand what you have on you, and you don't really want to try to explain it because you
Yeah.
couldn't. So don't be resentful towards people, because they're just people like you are, and they need a shepherd. And so be careful. Guard your spirit during this time of the year. Guard your spirit. Don't get upset because they don't understand you got 59 million things going on.
Hmm.
Don't get resentful. And then I think another area, another temptation, warning sign, is to just escape into work, into
Hmm.
those things, and become isolated.
Yeah, we could be busy every single day with great things because there's, you know, lots of needs, lots of things that we could do with our time. And if you're not careful, you'll do all of that and neglect your family, neglect your children.
Yeah, and you gotta guard it and be careful. God never designed us to be self-sufficient. God never designed us to be alone all the time. Jesus had 12 disciples. He had the inner circle of the three there,
Mm-hmm.
and then that intimate disciple, John, he had. So we're not designed to be emotionally or relationally self contained. Now, we're designed to be dependent on Christ,
Yeah.
but even in the garden, before sin entered the world, he said it's not good for man to be alone. Now he was speaking about Adam and Eve,
Mm-hmm.
but still the principle applies. We need each other,
Yeah.
and so isolation is a danger, and we need to look out for it. It leads to burnout. It leads to moral failure, making the
Mm-hmm.
unwise decisions because you're isolated, you're away. If you watch those, you know, Wild Kingdom videos from way back in the 70s, you'll see some wildebeest, by itself, and then here comes a lion after it. And so Satan works the same way. He gets us away from people and isolated, then bitterness comes, and so we don't want that for you. We don't want that for our ministries, and so we need to be very mindful of those things. And so, how do you combat that? How do you fight the temptation to retreat, to be isolated during the holiday season? um I think we need to build relationships, and work at relationships outside of the congregation
Mm-hmm.
to some degree.
Yeah,
Do you have any?
I do. I think it's important that you can have some other friends who are in the ministry because no one understands it like someone who is in the ministry. It's something you just can't explain. And so it is helpful to have friends outside of your ministry who are ministry leaders.
Yeah, it's very important. I think it's very necessary to make time to get, for the phone call, for the coffee meeting, make time for that because, it needs to be a relationship where you're not the pastor, you're not necessarily leading, you are, it's a relationship that is reciprocal, which many times in ministry it's not, and that's okay. But it needs to be a reciprocating relationship. With that in mind, we do need other people. We do need relationships, but we can't escape the fact that you are the under shepherd, but the chief shepherd sees you. He sees the season of life you're in. The Bible says the Lord knoweth them that are his. Our labor is not in vain in the Lord. And one of these days the chief shepherd shall appear, and he's going to make all these things that we're dealing with right. But we got to remember that God sees us. Even when we try to make an arrangement, to talk to another pastor or a ministry friend, or we make effort to take care of ourselves. At the end of the day, we understand that God sees where you are in the heaviest season of ministry. God sees you when things are not going well. God sees you when you're physically weak, emotionally drained. God sees you. You're not forgotten. Though you feel unseen, you're in the midst of a lot of people, you feel unseen. God sees you. You're not forgotten. And sometimes and you're not failing because you're under this heavy season of ministry. God sees you. God hears your prayers, and God is enough for you, pastor, ministry leader. He is enough, and God bless you during this holiday season. And we want God's best for you. And stay on guard for loneliness.
Yeah.
And ministry is a lonely place.
It is, but you're making a difference.
You're making a difference.
You may not see it. You may not see it, but you are. You're making a difference.
Judgment seat of Christ will reveal how God has used you. And don't let the devil steal your joy. And stay faithful to God. And God bless you. Hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you for listening to Ministry Matters, a podcast of Freedom Baptist Church. If you enjoyed today's topic, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. This helps others find our podcast. To learn more information about Freedom Baptist Church, visit freedombaptistrh.com. Until next time, may God bless you.